Hi everyone, this is Lasheen from the communications department. I just wanted to let you guys know that we are live on social, and I'm just going to be in the background if anything techie or weird goes on. I'll be here to assist, but I'm going to keep my camera and my microphone off, but if you need me, just give me a holler.
Thanks, Lasheen.
How's everybody doing?
Fine, thanks. Hope you are too.
So we'll give it a couple more minutes to let a few more people join on, and then we'll get started.
There we go. Standing on a corner trying to get Wi-Fi.
You have sunshine.
It's nicer here now, Kim, than I think in Mexico. Just make you jealous. Not time to come home.
Yeah.
Beautiful 60 degrees right now.
I'm
My
good.
son was walking around in t-shirts and shorts.
Wait. Okay. Shorts. Really shorts. Sunshine. Look at there.
Yeah.
Bye. Hola.
Looks like we have majority, so I'm going to go ahead and take attendance. All right, Chris Meyer,
Here.
Kathy Johnson Harris. I don't see her. Maybe she'll come later. Ketty Holland Repnick.
Here.
Kemlia Spalding. I see you. Pat Lloyd.
Here.
Audrey Oliver. I don't see you. She might come later. And then Tania Dowell. Don't see you either, but she might come later.
Mm.
Okay, so any changes or additions to the January 27th, 2021 meeting minutes?
No, ma'am.
Okay, that works with me. And then I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Oh. Lasheen, can I have sharing privileges?
Sure thing.
Thank you.
All right, there you go.
Thank you. All right, can we all see the table?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, perfect.
This is the same one you sent us, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
So, at the last January 27th meeting, our last task force meeting, Juwan and Stephen from the Charlottesville Area Transit went over the 4 transit projects. We're going to start with those all the way down here. These were the Ridge Street identified projects. CAT staff went out and conducted the site visits from each of the identified priority sites, then followed up with a site inspection report. The follow-up report showed that they needed ADA improvements and other infrastructure improvements, and the right-of-way acquisition would impact each of the homeowner properties that were adjacent to the bus locations, with the addition of a new bench or shelter. All subject sites were not recommended for improvement. HUD also mentioned that because of the low ridership, these projects would become less of a priority. Staff also mentioned the option of re-examining the transit stops should the task force want to pursue that option. So I wanted to let Stephen and Juwan kind of explain what that option would look like. This would also align with one of the 2020 priorities that were mentioned in the neighborhood surveys. So I'm going to turn it over to Juwan and Stephen.
Well, I'll talk first on this, Juwan. I don't know if you're online yet, but we went back out on Ridge Street and looked at the possibility of relocation of some of the stops and potential locations of those. There's very few, maybe 2 locations, maybe only 1. Kind of in the middle of Ridge Street between Hartman's Mill Road and Brookwood. There's a property on each side of the street, almost across from each other, that have a little bit more open space. It's really difficult to place these in this area because there's a lot, as you guys know, there's a lot of driveway aprons that cut into that, that cut the available space down. Though these 2 spaces looked potentially they could work. We'd have to go back out and do some measurement and do some things like that in greater detail. One of them on the just for lack of I guess of not knowing the direction exactly on the south side of the street is, it looks like a vacant lot, a vacant property. Sure, it's owned by one of the homeowners right next to it or something. But regardless, is that it's still the same scenario, is that the sidewalks are only 4 foot, is that there is no room to put a shelter on those sidewalks. And which means we're back to the scenario of purchasing acquisition of property for a shelter on the back side of the right of way. The right of way in this neighborhood is pretty much on the back side of the sidewalk. So it would be into private property again. And as HUD rightfully noted, it's loses a sizable amount of land, even though it'd be 4 or 5 feet wide by the length of a shelter. So, which would still be probably in the 8 to 9 foot range. So, even though these were flat areas, at least they didn't have the hillsides to deal with, which is great. The accessible route is always a concern for me of putting an amenity out in an area where you can't access it. Doesn't do a lot of favors for anybody. So we can go back out and do a detailed analysis of this or look at it in measurements. If that's what y'all would like for us to do, I'd be happy to do that.
So, Mr. McNally, is this site that you're thinking about closer to where Raymond comes into Old Ridge?
I believe it is, yes. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think
I
about
think on
where.
the map it says 837 Ridge Street.
Okay, I'd have to go back out and really look at those addresses. And like I said, we look at it from the standpoint of also, as you know, it's not a real easy thing to relocate stops because it creates confusion with our riding patrons. But of course, we do it all the time. But so that can be done in those areas where now we're particularly the 2 stops that are on Hartman's Mill Road are kind of tough spots because of on-street parking. And then the
Yeah.
area that I'm referencing, even down the block some, is again, we'd have to post it for no on-street parking. And it's already a difficult street with that on-street parking. So unless it's enforced, it's kind of useless sometimes.
Well, I, for one, really appreciate you looking at some alternatives. Would you have, just off the top of your head, like a cost estimate if the task force went ahead and recommended, yeah, we want to do that down the road?
I'd have to look at that again in greater detail. It'd be closer on the cost estimate. It'd be closer to the estimate that I've already done. That's
Okay.
on the north side of Ridge and Hartman's Mill. Be closer to that.
Okay.
Hold on just a second. I think it was in the
2185.
21 range. Right.
Okay.
Correct. Right. Because again, it would not have retaining wall and but the big issue there is that because it's federal funds is that we have to comply with a federal standard, which is the Relocation Act.
Yeah.
And that's again, it's something we have to kind of do a check off on, but that's how you acquire property in the public sector with federal funds. And either that or eminent domain, and nobody wants an eminent domain to acquire a 4x10 piece of property for a bus shelter because that is a lawsuit. So that's a no-brainer to start with.
So Aaron, does HUD have a final say on what this task force recommends?
So basically how the process goes is the task force makes a recommendation to city council as to the projects you guys want to use CDBG funding for. City council will make the funding approval for HUD. HUD will look at the projects that City of Charlottesville wants to use CDBG dollars for. The city has to put up all the backup data information for each project. So the concern HUD had with the transit projects was that the ridership data didn't match what was required for CDBG requirements.
Okay.
There was lack of ridership data. HUD was a little bit iffy on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm. I did also, that being said, I did check with other localities who did transit related activities, and their activities were pretty much identical to what is being discussed now. But their activities were on routes that were more heavily, they had more ridership.
Yeah.
This is what I'm trying to say.
I
Hello,
understand.
go on. Go on.
Oh, I just said, Miss Harris, glad to see you. That I understand. It's making sense to me.
I may have missed something, but with all the discussion, will you take away the bus route at Ridge and Brookwood at that intersection, Mr. McNally?
Juwan's gonna have to answer that one. I'm not in really the operations aspect of this. I do all the capital work on this, such as the design and construction of these, but so he will have to log in on that one. It looks like he may be on.
I'm here.
Okay, because Javon, I hope that we're not going to take that away, because as I pointed out, the individuals at the end of the road, some of them have handicapping conditions, and they ride quite a bit, and I worry about their safety if we take that one out.
So you're asking, are we getting rid of the route or getting rid of the stop if
The
we put a
stop.
new?
The stop.
Okay. So traditionally, yeah, we would consider what other stops, where are they, how far are they? I guess the standard is a quarter mile in between stop is sort of what is standard, but that's not an absolute rule. So saying that, because of that stop where it is, if we do install a new stop at that Ridge, that empty lot, it's a little, looks like a side street, doesn't have a name, but the one that we've looked at that's in between Raymond and Hartman's Mill, so it's about 190 feet, 590 feet distance wise, and so it doesn't necessarily mean we would get rid of the Brookwood stop. It might mean the Hartman's Mill stop gets combined. But once again, it's not, we may decide to leave, have 3 stops there instead of 2 stops on that stretch. So we'll have to review sort of the ridership and, what you're telling us, there are passengers in need down the street. So
Yeah.
those all come into play and they'll be considered.
Okay, I hope you will consider it highly, since the bus could not turn around at the end of Ridge. I understand that, but I really would hate to see these people displaced. Thank you.
So this is Kim. What's the possibility of at least putting a bench back on the corner of Ridge and Brookwood?
The bench would also be placed behind the sidewalk because you cannot, it's only 48-inch sidewalk, 4-foot
It
sidewalk.
wasn't before.
Well, it may not have been designed to ADA standards before. I don't know.
Oh,
But
right.
but going in, we have to design to ADA standards.
Right, I understand. Okay, thank you.
Is there a specific location, if we do decide to put a bench in, obviously, so that's going to entail looking at ADA compliance, but also your property acquisition. But if we do end up going that far, is there a preferred location you want a bench on that corner?
Well, there's two poles still sticking up there that anybody can see. That's where it was before. I have no objection to it being there. I'm not sure if I really want you going into my yard because there's a big pine tree there and I don't want the roots cut. I don't want to lose that tree.
I have an idea, Kim and Jawan. If we decide to put the sidewalk that connects the sidewalk in front of Kim's house with, I think it's 227 is the address, why couldn't we make that sidewalk ADH compliant and put a bench there, because it wouldn't be too far from the corner of Brookwood and Ridge? Would that be something that could be done?
I can't speak for the sidewalk part, but I would assume if they're building a new sidewalk in there that it would have to be compliant.
Yeah, it would.
Would
Yeah. Would a bench
So-
be good there?
Right. So in that case, it's much easier for us to get in with the designers and sort of carve out a location for a bench in the design phase. So, we're not trying to, it's already built into, when they do make the sidewalk, it's already kind of built in there. So yeah, that's a far better and easier for us to do that before things get built and us trying to go in and, knock your wall down or put a retaining wall or disturb the trees or whatever. So
Yeah.
certainly something we can look at, but I don't know, I guess is NDS doing the sidewalk work? Then we can talk to them and see what can be done.
Yeah,
I think that's a great idea, Miss Harris, because then there would be a shelter and or a bench there for those folks coming down from the end of Ridge Street to wait in a sheltered area.
And it would also not put all of the weight on Kim. It would kind of be in between so that she doesn't lose her tree and her stairs. And, the other house, the stairs go down, I think more to the right than to the left. So it may beautify their property also, because it may be necessary for a retaining wall to go in that area.
Quick question about you mentioned the two poles are still there that on the property that I guess used to belong.
Yeah, I
be
mean,
part of
where they cut off the bench. This is soon after I moved there. They cut off the bench and then they left about an inch and a half of it sticking up,
Yeah.
plus the bolts that fastened it down. So at some point, I and other people hammered it down some so that people wouldn't trip over it, but it's still quite obvious where it was.
Okay, that's something we can certainly take care of sooner. We can have some folks come out. The normal process would have been to hammer it in or pull it out to flush it, because we don't want to create a trip hazard. So that's something we can certainly go out and take a look and take care of sooner than later.
Well, that's good, because I only asked for years. Just have to know which wheel to grease.
I'm not sure if I
Do you
know what
grease
that
wheels?
is, but
Maybe
it
that's
sounds
not the
like
right term.
Juwan knows it, so.
any other questions for Stephen or Joanne?
So I guess, Aaron, that means that we're gonna kind of put the Rich Street Brookwood intersection bus stop thing kind of on hold until we get more info from Mr. McNally about the possibility of putting it, as Ms. Harris suggested.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing for HUD would be having ridership data for the action plan approval. Because without that, they would
Still.
not approve it. the project.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the top now. All right, so the signage options here. Let me see if this is working. Yes, it is.
Please change the, it's Lank Ford, not Lang Ford. L-K-A-N, I mean, Lankford.
Like that?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So the city traffic engineer, Brennan, he went through and reordered all of these based on the 3 neighborhood studies that we had, the 1996, 1998, and the 2020, along with the HUD feedback, city CDBG funding, and the city priority for having sidewalks on at least one side of the road. So these are all ranked now. For the signage, these are all pretty equal to one another. The only exception being, I did speak with him just before he had to leave the office, but Old Ridge and 5th Street Crossing. So this is still pending city council action. It is estimated at $15,000, so it's not included in the $10,000 total estimate here. And that being because it is the double flashing type of signage. I think I saw Amanda on here. She may be able to describe that better than I can. Brennan is waiting to do pedestrian counts for this, and he does have it penciled in for city funding, but if the task force does want to go and use CDBG funding for this signage, that is an option as well. But we would have to add in the $15,000.
Hey, Joanne, give me a call. Steve, thanks.
Aaron, any idea on
This is
when,
Steve McNally
if
with
the city council is going to do it, when it might happen?
Oh, I thought it was muted.
I don't think that's decided.
Not
I think it is muted.
not currently.
I'll come down there.
I don't know off. I think, let me see.
Well, I think we should definitely put that on our list of money.
So have
That
it go,
saves lives.
Yeah, I think I agree. That's, to me, the most important one on here, in addition to the Elliott South First.
in addition to the Elliott South First. So this one.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to go through all of them. The Ridge Street, right before Langford, the speed limit sign, is that also wanted?
Where are you? Oh,
At the-
Ridge Street, Langford?
Yeah.
So I wanted,
Yeah, I just, I'm the one who walked the streets for several months getting everybody's signature on speeding. It's a huge issue and everybody is in favor of doing something to slow it down. And it seems to me that we've kind of gotten told that we can't really do anything that's really going to slow the speed down. So the flash, so anywhere in there to put one of those flashing your speed is, that would be great. And then in between every single sign, I mean, it's like, there's no excuse that you don't know what the speed limit is if we've got those signs up.
Kim, you mentioned that you've talked to people. We've been complaining about that for years. And we've also complained about parking. And we've also, and it seems as though, Aaron, not to disrespect your comment, you said that you had turned it over to the police department. And I've been kind of homebound for the last 3 months. I think I've maybe seen one policeman. Nobody tickets, nobody puts any warning. They just ride through. They don't even speak. I
Yeah.
mean, so we need, I don't know whether we as a task force can say, have them come in and talk about something, or whether this is not the appropriate time and maybe we need to pen a letter to them or something. But it appears that in a lot of ways we are forgotten when it comes to speed and parking and safety of the children. It's as if the police department doesn't even know we exist.
Kathy, Chris,
Should definitely send another letter to them. I did send one out a couple months ago, but we can send out another.
Yeah, driving by is not policing as far as I'm concerned. They're in their car, they whiz on by, they turn down Brookwood, and that's the end of it. And it's like, what did you learn?
So is the neighborhood association functional? And normally in my experience, this is something the neighborhood association usually tackles.
That is so true. And when I was active, we had them to come in. And then when other people took it over, they came in, but nothing changes. So you are exactly right that the neighborhood association should be active. And I have been on Ridge Street for, I'm not going to tell you how many years, because then you'll know how old I am. But I've been a resident of this area for a long time. And then I bought my own house over here. So basically nothing has changed. I can tell you stories. I looked at how much they were talking about the drainage coming down Hartman's Mill Road, down Raymond Road, and the sidewalk on this side. And I don't want to get off the subject, but I call it the black side of Raymond Road.
Yep.
Nothing changes from the time they had to drag those trash cans from down at the foot of the hill where Miss Fitch lives all the way to the top to have the trash people pick it up. Nothing has changed. The only thing that has
Grief.
is we have new neighbors, and they are getting a lot of the amenities that we have asked for years. Now, I don't want to get on a soapbox, and I know that's off the subject, but that.
No, you're right. No, you're absolutely right.
So Kathy, I completely don't disagree with you, and I agree. I mean, but I think the things within we have power over are unfortunately, and not as many as things that maybe as we want, but these signage.
No.
I mean, not to say that other things
Losing
are
the
needed,
signal again.
but I think at least my understanding of what we can control in this group is at least making these improvements. Not to say those things again don't need to be done, but can we all agree that we should get these done?
You are correct, but we also need to make the city aware. You are so correct, but we still need to toot that horn every time we get a platform.
All right. That's fine. I just want to make sure we're able to say yes to this and move forward with it and get them done as soon as possible.
Yeah, this is Pat. I would agree that let's go yes on these because we can control this. And maybe Ms. Harris, because I'm totally with you. Having been on the Ridge Street Neighborhood Association board for many years, we had police officers come in and speak to us, and you're right, not much changed at all. And I don't know, Chris, if you would think it would behoove us and Aaron to invite a representative of the police department to sit in on one of our meetings. And so they can hear it again.
And not to continue to complain, but the signage is great and I support it also. But if it's not enforced, why buy it?
Correct.
Well, I think Kathy, that, and I'm maybe out a little bit too far here in my knowledge range, but while enforcement is right. It probably would have a bigger impact on the speeding. The signage will have some kind of impact, even though it might not be as much as we want. Is that?
I'm not gonna debate this issue with you, but I'm gonna put it out there one more time. We fought for no parking going down Brookwood. And as you ride down Brookwood, there are no parking signs. This says no parking on the side. What's there? Cars parked there. I'm just trying to bring home a point that we need more behind the signage. Do you understand where I'm coming from now? And it's not that I'm debating that you're right and I'm wrong, or I'm right and you're wrong. And I know this is going off the subject, but it's just like if we put a bus stop there and nobody rides, what does HUD say to us? And what does a lot of people say to us? We don't need it there. So we need enforcement of the signs that we're asking for.
I completely agree with you. I'm not, again, I don't think we're disagreeing with each other. And I think we both want to think this, I think my point being is, I'd like to see us make some decisions, if that's possible. And I'm not trying to force this today, so that we can get some of these, the things that at least we can control moving, and make those positive impacts with those things, if that makes sense.
And we did make a decision for the signage to be there, and I just put a footnote under it.
Okay.
That's all.
All right, thank you for clarifying. Anyway, so Aaron, it does sound like we're good with signage, unless it's,
All right, so we're good on all the signs, or just the top one?
I think all of the signs.
I think all of them.
Okay.
And as Kim recommended, I would go ahead, if everyone else is in agreement, that we go ahead and do the flashing light at Old Ridge and Fifth rather than wait for city council. Safety and lives should not have to wait.
Is everyone in agreement with that, or anyone opposed to that? Okay.
fine with me. Yeah, I support that, even though they might not approve it. But we'd get the money back and we could repurpose it then, right, Aaron?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I will need to talk with, if you want the project now, the $15,000 would come out from CDBG.
Yes.
So you would not get money back from CIP.
Get it done.
Okay. So moving on to sidewalks. So again, these were ranked in accordance to the neighborhood studies, and making sure that each street had at least one side of sidewalk.
I'm a yes on the very first one, Brookwood Drive and Ridge Street intersection, just on the east side.
Okay.
I think that's the first one that's ranked there.
Okay.
I support that too.
Yep.
And I think that's the one that Ms. Harris suggested that might then be hopefully configured to take either a bench or a full shelter.
It is.
Except for the fact that HUD won't support it.
You and I'll put it up, Kim.
There you go.
Okay, Raymond Road, west side.
East side.
I'm on
I see. Moving on to the next one. Sorry. My tentative notes to myself were no, since we're doing it on the east side, just so that we can save money for other things. That one's really expensive. But I could be persuaded.
My understanding is there is already one side, I think like you said, at this part of the road, there's already a sidewalk on one side of the road.
Correct.
Right, but you have to keep crossing over the road because there, and you have to keep crossing over the road to keep on some sidewalk.
Yeah, but Kim, if the one is built on the east side, then that will be continuous.
I lost you.
And on top of that, we can just scrap that one because it'll never happen in our lifetime. And you're right, with it being on the other side of the of the street. Yeah, we have one.
Oh,
Don't worry about that one. Don't 210,000 is too much for
Yeah.
this street. Yeah. Exit.
Okay, so we're gonna skip this for now.
We'll be here for months to Sundays.
Baylor Lane and Raymond Road intersection.
And this is where there is no sidewalk on either side of the road, correct? There's a gap
Correct.
between connecting.
on which one? I'm sorry.
The Baylor Lane and Raymond Road intersection.
It's one on one side, but it's not continuous.
Yeah, I think it picks up where the new development for Baylor Lane.
Of course,
Right?
of course.
To build anything now, you have to have a sidewalk. The developers have to do that, right? So,
No.
Yeah,
no, that's not true.
developers have to do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it would be basically, it looks like a block and a half worth of sidewalk. And
I'd be a yes on that, just because it again meets the priority of sidewalk on at least one side of the street.
I vote yes for that also.
I'm fine with that.
I'd support that too. Okay, Aaron, just a number check. I think it looks like we're up to like 150,000 if we're doing the lights flashing too on Fifth Street.
Yep.
Are we trying just to do a first year allocation or both year allocation or all 3 year allocations right now?
We're just
a point of order.
going up to the 500 and 1,000.
Okay, so we are trying to maybe potentially spend everything.
Yeah.
Do we have to spend it all right now, or is it if we wanted to explore some more things, we still could after maybe again getting at least the first year's allocation done?
Yes, so you could explore other options once we've finished up a project. So the transit projects could come up later on. If we want to spend some stuff now, signage would be a great option. It would also help with the city's timeliness problems. But let's get through these right now. Where were we? So Woodfolk Drive.
All right, I'm gonna jump in on this one because it was my priority initially, but Kim reminded me of the words I said in one of our first meetings, which was brings the biggest bang for the buck. And I went and walked it the other day, and I believe, and Kathy, Ms. Harris helped me with this, I believe there's only 4 to 5 houses on Woodfolk.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a whole lot of money. And I have a friend that lives there who, she says the kids are used to it. They walk in the street. Everybody walks in the street. It's a very short block. So I'm kind of iffy on it now.
You are right in the amount of houses that's back there. And it is sort of the kids that live down here, it's sort of their playground.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's not a whole lot of cars that travel through. So I could see, if we got a burst of money later to use it, but right now, I don't think the people in the back are too concerned.
Share those sentiments.
Pardon me, Chris?
I share those same sentiments.
Okay.
In that I don't think it's a priority.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
Sorry if I'm capturing your thoughts.
Just give them back to me when you're done.
Brookwood Drive and Ridge Street, the west side. So we're filling in missing gaps.
In my notes, I wrote no, since we're going to have a sidewalk on the east side. But again, I could be persuaded.
I would say, I agree, Pat. It would be hard for me at the moment to prioritize this when there's one side of the street that will be connected.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, we're gonna go to Baylor Lane. So this is the south side connection to Woodfolk.
Again, I'm going to go up to the second one there where we're already putting in a sidewalk, unless I'm misunderstanding this, on Baylor Lane from the end of the Carter's View newer sidewalk. So there would already be a sidewalk that we're going to be putting in on the north side.
Yeah, I think we took care of this with our previous, and with the idea of at least getting one side of the street taken care of.
Okay. And then the other option was the other side of Baylor Lane, connecting Raymond to existing sidewalk.
Yeah, so I'm confused about this, Aaron. If we look at the second one on the sidewalk list, Baylor Lane and Raymond Road, the intersection, for 70,000, and then we drop down to Baylor Lane option 2, 110,000. So what is the difference between those two? I mean, other than money, isn't it the same space, the same place?
No, let me see.
I think the retaining wall has something, and the stormwater drainage has something to do with it. If I recall, why it's a little bit more expensive.
Yeah, those were two different areas that were broken out when we looked at it on the map the last time with Brennan. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Yep. I'm looking at the Google shot of it from up top. It looks like the development on the north side starts closer to Raymond. So it's about 100 feet worth of sidewalk that's already taken care of, versus the south side would require that extra. In addition to the one that comes down on Raymond on the east side, curves around a little bit already, and maybe the corner's got the ADA ramp onto it a little bit. So you have less of a corner on it. Save you 10K. But if someone knows exactly, that's, at least that's what I can see right now from the RM.
So is Baylor Lane option 2 on the south side of Baylor Lane?
That's what I'm interpreting from. Can you go up, Aaron, on the sheet again a little bit? Sorry, so we can see option 1. Yep. Up, down, down, there you go. So you're right. South side connects Woodfolk to existing sidewalk on Baylor Lane, and then, right, that would be the
Okay,
complete.
so it's two. I got it. So in a sense that Baylor Lane option 2 is moot because we're putting the sidewalk on the north side. We
I think
don't
what
need. Sorry,
there's
Chris.
two options here because we could just do basically connect from Woodford Drive, or we could connect from Raymond on the south side.
Correct.
Right, and so that there's.
But we've
different-
already got an okay for Baylor Lane, Raymond Road on the north side. So we don't need a sidewalk on the south side.
That's, I would agree with that. I don't know if
Okay.
everybody does. I think that you're describing the options there, yes.
Okay,
I would agree with that too, because on the other side, it would be a sidewalk to nowhere. But at least the other one connects, which is a good thing.
all right.
Can we see this? I try to pull it up. So this is
Aaron, we might be finished.
that kind of gives you a visual view of.
Yeah, I understand now when Chris described it.
Okay, I'll go back.
Thanks. So you think we're done?
Let me see. The only
Now
ones
we-
left
That's
are.
like $1,000.
Oh, no, we've got two more.
6th Street Southeast, east side.
I'm embarrassed to admit that I have not driven by there to see those. So somebody's going to have to help me out here.
Let me go to the map. Okay.
Right, at the moment, there doesn't look like there's any sidewalks for like one block, right? Aaron, if I understand this correctly?
Yeah. So this is 6th Street Southeast. It runs pretty far along.
Gosh, no sidewalk.
Wait a second, you were just pointing at second, I think. Aaron.
No, this is 6th Street. Yeah, 6th Street
Yeah,
Southeast.
there you go. All right.
So there's sidewalk on this side, but not on the other side. And it kind of flip-flops. I think, Amanda, if you're on the line, can you talk about 6th Street Southeast? You have more information on this location.
Yeah, I think there were two sort of, and apologies, I think there's some children screaming in the background here. But there are two sections along 6th Street where there is no sidewalk. It is generally continuous between Jordan Park and the downtown mall, but farther south towards Jordan Park, there's an area where there's no sidewalk on either side. And then in the block between Montrose and Blenheim, I believe, there's a section where there is no sidewalk. So it would just kind of fill in some gaps that would be an otherwise continuous sidewalk between Jordan Park and downtown.
So would that be the second 6th Street Southeast by Montrose, missing segments, da, 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 da? So all of that would only be 70,000?
That would be just the one portion between Montrose and between Montrose and Bowling or Blenheim. I'm sorry, I can't think off the top of my head which intersection that is, but so you would need both of those two projects in order to create that continuous connection, if that makes sense, on 6th
Yeah.
Street.
Yeah.
You know, you could do one or the other. It just, you know, it just would provide a different level of access for, you know, the neighborhoods sort of south of Elliott and then north of Elliott, I guess.
Would you have a recommendation about which one should be a priority?
I mean, I know I personally have heard a lot of complaints about the section kind of closer to around the Montrose area. But I don't know that, short of just my own, you know, knowledge of what people have said to me, you know, the other one is certainly closer to the park. So it's kind of a little, it's hard to say.
Okay. Do we have money left over, Chris, to do both?
Yes.
Yeah, you know, I think, Aaron, if I'm calculating in my head, you know, signage was $10,000. The couple sidewalks we approved with, or sorry, signage and the flashing thing was going to be like 25K for fiscal, right? And then there was another 125K worth of sidewalks we agreed to or prioritized. So there's a total spend of, Aaron, I think you mentioned 450 to 500K.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The first year allocation though is only 80K, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which is this fiscal year, which goes through June. So from a spending perspective, we'd be good by deciding to get those things done, and we would have worked our way into the year 2-1. So I'm not really excited personally about these two on 6th Street, because to a certain extent, again, if Amanda understand things correctly, they already have sidewalks at least on one side of the street. And one thing I didn't hear.
No, sorry, they're in those two particular sections. There's no sidewalk on either side, so there is continuous sidewalk. Well, there's not continuous sidewalk between downtown and the park due to these couple of gaps. So filling those gaps would create at least one side of continuous sidewalk between the two, if that makes sense, or, you know, between downtown and Jordan Park.
Okay. Well, I guess in that case, you know, what this would also do is it's not just improvements kind of along the Ridge Street. It is, you know, the east side of the neighborhood and up, you know, again, on the other side of Elliott too, everybody would, you know, so from a distributing the benefits around from this money, you know, everybody would get something in their portion of the neighborhood, you can potentially say, right?
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to think about. And given that we have just a bit over 85,000 the first year, I would recommend we get all the signage done, which will still leave us with some.
Well, one thing that I didn't see in here, and again, is we talked a lot about in some of our early meetings, is housing and affordable housing. And I wonder if we want to get some of these things spent now and definitely get some impacts done now, but then potentially have some presentations from Habitat for Humanity, for example, or somebody else to come in and talk about some ideas of how could we help, for example, some of the folks that are in South First Street, graduate from South First Street into our starter home in our neighborhood, or this neighborhood. So I don't know if that is something else. We could save $100,000, $150,000, and still have time, because we're spending and getting impacts early still. But then we would have more time to try to figure out a housing solution if we want to find one, or to try to find one. And if we don't, and we can't decide upon one, well, then we still have these other projects we could decide upon before we're supposed to spend all the money.
Well, if we go ahead and do the signage now, and just the very first recommendation on sidewalks, which is the Brookwood Drive and Rich Street intersection, I think that's only 75,000, which would leave a whole lot.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying we things we decide upon. I suggest we do, which we're
Okay.
excited about, right? Which is the Brookwood Drive and the Baylor Lane sidewalks. That's $120,000 right there, and then
Okay.
signage is another 145. So if we're keeping track there, that's a total of, yeah, we're up around 150,000. We still have $350,000 to spend. If we did the additional sidewalks, which I'm okay doing, that's 170. So now we're up to 325 or 320. Sorry, everybody, if you're trying to keep track of the math here. But that still leaves us with $130,000, $180,000 to spend, which is, could help somebody get into a home. I don't know. I think
I like that idea, Chris. That go ahead and get as much done as are on these sheets that we've agreed to as a group, and then hold out some money and have some presentations from maybe some stakeholders in the area. I know, Ms. Harris, a while back you had raised some issues about training, job training, that, let's look at some other things. I think that would be a good idea.
So the job training portion, keep in mind there's a separate area of CDBG that's already allocated for that.
Oh, okay.
That's anyone who wants job training, nonprofits, and everyone who is eligible can apply for CDBG in the fall for the request for proposals for that.
Okay.
Yeah, just so you know, and Kathy, I know this, I think, was one of your things. LEAP is going to do that, and is already has a collaboration going with the Office of Economic Development and got some money from that separate pot of money. So we're going to do some of that. But whether it be housing or or other job training, I just remember, I think Tania and Kathy, maybe I'm remembering wrong. Those were things that you guys had mentioned that you potentially wanted to see us spend some money on. But I'm not seeing anything being done at the moment in any of the options we're discussing.
Yes, that is correct. And I still stand by that. Not sure exactly which way to go about getting it done, but would definitely agree to have with that, some of the remaining funds that we have not allocated to be allocated to that.
I second.
Okay,
All right,
so sorry, go ahead, Chris. I don't want to interrupt you.
So I think we need to decide, do we like trying to do 6th Street sidewalks too? And I think that's a decision point we need to come on. It sounds like there's not connectivity all the way. It's on one side of the road. So, based on kind of, I think, what we were just discussing earlier, we should probably do that. And I think, Pat, you were supportive of that.
Yes.
I'm supportive of that. I guess Kathy, Tania, sorry.
I support that too.
Are you okay with that?
This is Tania. I'm okay with that.
Kim, you still on? Did we lose her?
She emailed me saying that her internet was spotty, so she may not be able to respond.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Do you guys
Alright.
want both sides or one side? Do you have a preference?
One side.
Okay.
I agree.
Do you, based on just looking at this, have a preference as to which side, or do you want to let engineering look at it and see which one will not require a design and go from there?
It looks like the easier one would be the longer stretch that doesn't have to deal with a historic retaining wall.
Yeah.
And you get more bang for our buck, if I understood it correctly. So it'd be that first option, 6th Street southeast side. Okay, so if we did that, we've pretty kind of spent half our money. Everybody, it looks like
Yep.
it's, and that gets us going, Aaron, right? And so we're also spending and we're getting seeing some impact, and we're also distributing throughout the whole neighborhood, right? To a certain extent, benefits from all this. And then we could always come back to some of these, right, Aaron, if we, for whatever reason, couldn't find something else to spend it on in the next 12 to, or 9 to 12 months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we're not going to delete any of these. This is going to stay as it is. So I'm going to go through these one more time real quick just to make sure I have everyone's approval. So we're okay on all the signage, including Old Ridge and 5th Street crossing. I'm not hearing any nays on that.
Correct?
Okay. We're okay with Brookwood Drive and Ridge Street intersection, adding sidewalk to fill in the missing gaps.
Yes.
Baylor Lane and Raymond Road, adding sidewalks.
Yes.
And then the last one was 6th Street Southeast, adding sidewalk there.
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that we don't forget about the possibility of a bus shelter at the Ridge Street and Brookwood Drive intersection once that new sidewalk gets put in. So that, I guess a rough estimate of that would be the 24,000 that Mr. McNally had originally stated.
I would say that, yeah, that works for right now. I just put it on my schedule here to go out there and take a look at that again and find the location you're talking about where it has the two old poles sticking up and seeing what all is there. And I will also have a conversation with neighborhood services regarding the sidewalk and what they could possibly do on their design. Maybe they could bring it out into the road some to allow room in the public right of way for us to put a shelter.
Thank you, Mr. McNally. When you're in the neighborhood, stop by for a cup of coffee.
Okay.
All right, so yeah, we still have money set aside that we could do that, or other, improvements as maybe that matures a little bit also, right? And I know that was a priority for a lot of people, and maybe some solutions will become more apparent, as some of these things get done.
Yes, it definitely gives some wiggle room. Okay. Next step.
Well, one, we need to congratulate ourselves, right? We just made
Yeah, it's only 7 minutes after 5.
although we're not done, but we put some trigger on some things. You're going to see some improvements here in the next
Yeah, that's exciting.
future, right? Aaron, nod your head, because we're going to be holding you accountable to seeing all these projects done sooner rather than later.
When do you think the first day, give us a ballpark of when some of this may begin?
So I'm going to start moving on this right away, since we do have the timeliness issue with CDBG right now. I did speak with Brennan just before he did step out, and we're going to start moving on the signage project. We do need city council approval first before moving forward with anything, but we'll start moving on this right away.
Good.
And thanks for your leadership with this, Erin.
Of course.
You've
Exactly.
gone above and beyond.
It's all thanks to you guys.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Before we call it a night, that was only an hour. That's awesome. Any other business that you guys wanted to bring up? I know we talked about parking to raise a bug with them again.
Aaron, I can just, I can reach out to Habitat or maybe Tania, some of the affordable housing people you know too, to arrange some presentations sometime to get some ideas and some things cooking and some opportunities after you work through all this that you need to get done. But, you know, again, maybe in 6 to 8 weeks or something like that. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I guess if anybody else has an idea of, you know, somebody they heard of or a project they heard of, and, you know, they might want to see replicated in obviously this neighborhood, you know, let Aaron know and we can schedule speaking with them, right?
Alrighty, well, y'all just let me know when you would like to have these set up, and then I can do whatever you need me to do to help arrange them.
Where is the city with tiny houses? I think that's what they're called.
Good question. I'm not for sure.
I like it, Pat. That's the creative thinking we need. All right.
I want one in my backyard. That could be a real answer to affordable housing and housing for homeless people.
Another thing too, when we talk about housing, you might even be talking about mother-in-law quarters, like carriage
Yes.
houses in the back,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. But before that, Aaron, you were saying something about reaching out before we went back to the housing. I
Yeah,
think
reaching out to the police department again for the on-street parking.
Maybe invite them to a meeting.
I will ask again. Anything else? Okay, then I'm going to open it up for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to speak with the Ridge Street Task Force, feel free to raise your hand and I will call on you.
There are no attendees.
Oh,
Yeah, no attendees, just the panel.
we're gonna have to start offering prizes and
At the meeting where we make all the decisions too. Thanks, everybody.
All right, well then we can adjourn.
thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
thank you all.
Ellie, thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.